This morning when we got up and I was texting with my staff, I said, you know what? Let's just go ice fishing. And I got some strange responses back. So this is a place that I have normally held constituent meetings, and in many ways, this is the same thing. This is outreach to the issues that my district is having on broadband. I live out in Goldstream off of Murphy Dome Road, which kind of puts me geographically in the center of the north side of the district. This is an issue that has long been of concern for the people in Gulfstream and my voters who have been expressing a lot of concern and angst over their not to do it. Now, my District 4 is been surveyed and considered the most educated district in the state. It surrounds the university. At one point, living just past me was, don't remember his last name anymore, but I used to talk with him often. He's gone now, but he was the vice president for research. And he had to come into town to check his email. And obviously he could not do his functioning work at home. I've heard, last year I tried to do some survey work on where are the holes in broadband, where are the dark spots. And there were more comments on Facebook about what I was doing than there were people responding to the survey. And then I realized, like Dan mentioned this morning, you're reaching out to people with email who don't have email unless they come into town and check it. So I have been on this journey like everybody else who's been online for a long time, for better connectivity, being able to function at home, being able to have a cell phone that always operates. It's not dealing with cell phones. Cell phone world is pretty good, does it? But there's obviously some dead spots in town or in the valley. But the industry has done their job here for many years, and we welcome them and for what they're doing. But there's obviously needs other solutions. And we went on a journey last year when I just said to myself, what happens if I ran a cable from my house into the university, a fiber cable, and hooked it up and asked everybody along the path, hey, what would you want to hook up? Let's have a cooperative here. And then I realized in the calculation, what is it going to cost? What does it cost for fiber per mile? And the next thing is, what is the cost of hanging on a pole? I realized, wait a second, we already have an electric co-op here that I'm a part owner in. And why don't they do it? So we went on this journey. I said, so this is Seth Witten. He's my staff. And Eliana back there, she's I'm in my office. So if you call the office, you're talking to them. And they were did most of the work on this. So I said to Seth, let's figure out if this is possible. What's in the way for doing this? And we realized that there were 53 electric co-ops in the country that had already done this successfully. Not in the planning stage, that had already done it. They had customers, they had deployment. And so we started calling them. And we got the same answers from all of them. I started off thinking, I'm going to give them 3 basic questions, and I'll get kind of the world on all of them from the same responses. Well, that was an education because 2 of the questions were irrelevant, dealing with regulatory issues. But there are 23 states in the country where the legislators have put up barriers to doing muni broadband, fiber, or co-ops doing it. Some of the locals have gotten through those things, but it's generally a barrier to prevent that from happening. So we got consistent answers to questions situations that I hadn't realized. One is, well, they all came to it reluctantly, or most of them came to it reluctantly, but there was always somebody that was the driving force, whether it was somebody on the board or community members or the mayor, and they all started off and it just steamrolled. Some of the responses were, we put out you give us $200 up front and we'll hook you up as we're going by. You get it first. And they found out that when they were going by and they hooked up that neighbor, they had people running out with a check. Here's my $200. Don't go by. Hook me up now. They had 5-year deployment plans that were done in 3 because people wanted it faster. They wanted to be hooked up. In some towns, some situations, they only had residential, but the business community came in and said, you have to do us also. And these were places that already had providers, 1 or 2, but they were rural settings. And there were gaps in the service, and people wanted a better, faster way of hooking up. And then there are munis that are doing it also. The munis are deploying fiber in all kinds of configurations as well. And so we're here today to put all the options on the table for the people to look at. There are places to go. There are people. There are ways to get where we need to go. You know, the industry can come in and I have no preference for how it gets done or who does it, just to get us done faster than it's being done now. Because really, at the end of the day, cell phones, you know, the cell phones we have now are not going to work in a few years because the speeds are going to be required to be faster. Computer programs are going to need more speed. Last year, when I came home from the legislature, I went from 1 meg to 4. I was absolutely delighted. It was just a significant issue and change of how I functioned at home. Talking with some of those co-ops, one guy, one general manager of a fiber electric co-op that went to fiber, he went from 25 to 100 without a considerable increase in cost, but he said that was a huge difference for him, going from 25 to 100. I can only dream that we have that opportunity. So I'm going to give you a little bit about my legislative history of doing this. Oh, by the way, we've set up this this page to support this. So if you don't know it and if you haven't seen it, this background is part of it. It's heyfairbanks.net. The next word under it is, hey Fairbanks, where's your internet? This is a winter scene from Gulfstream. So in 2008, I introduced this legislation to create a broadband task force because nobody knew what was going on. You know, I would ask the question, what's going on? You talk to a provider, they would tell you one thing. You talk to somebody in the area, they wouldn't know. So I introduced this legislation. Susan Bell, the Commissioner of Commerce, came down and said, what are you trying to do? And I explained to her, says, we don't need legislation, we'll just do that. And to their credit, I thank them. They set up a broadband task force, and they met a lot. And this is their part of their homepage. You can see it up on top. And these are some of the documents that were there. There's a lot of documents. There's a lot of information on here. And from 08 to 14 is how long it took to do this report. And there it is, a blueprint for Alaska's future. This is consistent with everybody around the country. The Connect America, the Connect Alaska. The economic issues are the same everywhere. Education, kids in grade school, being able to do their homework at home, people able to do commerce, basic economic development, and a big one here, of course, is resource development and where we have broadband and where we're able to do things. So in the general recommendations, number 2, right there, establish an Office of Broadband Policy to manage a statewide plan, coordinate your future strategies, planning and policy, and market the importance of broadband adoption in the state and national level. The office would do the things you would want it to do, coordinate, develop educational, economic, and health programs. I do 3 budgets in the legislature. I do the university's budget, I do the Department of Natural Resource budget, and I do commerce. And every department in the state has broadband issues. It costs too much, they don't have enough of it, and it's not reliable. You know, when we talk about the public safety, the troopers, they say, why do we have, and they fly out to a village to bring somebody in or some remote part of Alaska. If we had broadband, we could do that using VPSO and local community resources. That's a great expense. The courts, telemedicine. The halls are full of people in the legislature selling you equipment, software. But if you don't have access to broadband, then all those things are the second question. So last year, I introduced legislation to create a broadband development commission or corporation. My intent was to fill the gaps in the infrastructure in the state. And using whatever stream of money, wherever we could get it, there's lots of resources that are out there to do those kind of things, whether it's FCC or NTIA or this is not just for the people. This would create neutral infrastructure that anybody could use, that the industry could come to the state and say, we have a gap here that nobody can afford to fill. That would enhance competition. That would make faster speeds. That would be good for the state. And because one entity couldn't do it, theoretically, that would be one of the functions that the Broadband Development Corporation could do. So it has been, I actually haven't requested a hearing yet because there was a lot of stuff going on, the evolution of the bill. We will be doing that early this next session. Hopefully we have one session next year. But in this legislature this year, this is the operating budget that was passed and signed, and this is the section on community and Department of Community and Economic Development. I put in this language part of as a goal for the state to get a better understanding of what's going on. You can talk to every provider. You can look at the FCC maps, and they overlay, and it says all of us have everything we would ever want. We know that happens. There's no place to go to understand who the provider is, what is the best service I can get, without every individual making phone calls. Just this morning, I went on to, I was online. I looked at, in June this year, there was a congressional hearing on broadband, and the gentleman that's in charge of Connect America, this was on the Connect Alaska page. He's testifying in June that on a national level, there are huge gaps in the mapping. We have huge issues with mapping. They have been trying to map and talking about the inaccuracies of the maps. And the states are broken down into census precincts. I don't know why they're census precincts, but I guess that's what they did. Census precincts. And if one person in a census precinct has adequate broadband, the whole map shows them having everybody having broadband. It's problematic. So the state needs to understand what its situation is for broadband for all of the reasons, the economic reasons, the development reasons, the managing our own economy, expanding our own economy. And this is the language, well, this is a memorandum, I think, in advance of the report that comes out of the language I put in the budget for the RCA having done this. So this is, so they were supposed to do a report due yesterday. And I talked with them, recognizing that we got out late, the budget got out late. They had to decide what they were going to do. And I did not envision an entire complete document of everything going on in the state, because that is tremendous responsibility, and it's just a snapshot. This is public now. It's available online, and I think there's copies out here. The more I know about broadband in Alaska, around the country, the more I realize I don't know. But that is the report, and that brings us to here. And Seth will talk about the report shortly. What I wanted to do here was to bring my constituents in and to bring people in and just put what options are on the table, what other places around the country have done, and put them on the table. And if people decide that they want to take charge and do things that they want to do, none of these deployments take up everything. They don't force anybody out. They're pro competition. They create opportunities. They create economic prosperity in many places. And they are, you cannot function in today's world without adequate broadband on any level. So we will go through this. Nobody told me to do where the exits are, announcements that people have. There's coffee. There are some snacks around the corner. We will take breaks when we want to take breaks. I envision we'll have some technical issues, so that always happens. I'm kind of like doing that, hoping that they won't. But so this is a kind of a free forum. We will have questions when we need them. Each presenter will have the ability to say, just wait till the end or whatever they want to do. I want to thank them for coming or being online. At the end of the day, I mean, I imagine people will be coming. My constituent meetings, people are used to coming and going all the time. This is a tough one because I've tried to set this up in a format where we start at the beginning and it kind of progresses through the issues and the presenters' issues. So I want to thank you all for coming. People will be coming and going. So if they want to, if you're here and you want to send your friends or family, this is the address where we're streaming online. So it's media.uaf.edu. If you're there and your family or friends have adequate broadband, so I will bring up Seth now. Seth has. We were trying to bring in somebody from the RCA to talk about their report, but they were not ready to present or give an opinion. I was not asking for an opinion, but Seth will go through their report, and I'm not sure he actually had, I don't know where he found the time, but they're back there. This is Seth Whitten. Thank you.
Thanks.